I'm going to just keep sleeping on my stomach and then get a facelift with you. So it's like, whatever.
Can we do like a twofer? Do you ever have like best friends?
Oh, he's had a mother and daughter.
Yeah, go in together and then recover together. Because Sarah and I would have a blast.
Yeah, we definitely have had friends. We've had sisters. We've had husbands and wives. We've had a lot of combinations like that. It's actually, it's great.
Yeah, you pay for mine, Jen.
You pay for mine. What? You pay for mine.
All right. Okay, can you do anything? Should you be putting skincare on your eyelids?
So, such a good question.
Welcome, new people. You should know that we are never prepared. We are always wearing sweats. We're never wearing makeup.
I would almost consider myself the MC of this podcast. I am the narrator.
So welcome. We hope you enjoy this.
Okay, you guys, you've asked for it, and it's here. And you know what? I kicked Erin to the curb. I brought in my best friend, Jen, because Erin has been trying to silence the beauty conversation, the skincare conversation, the beauty treatment conversation. It's here. We did it. I finally, you guys, I have been trying to get Dr. Karam on the podcast for, I would say, 2 years. I have called, I have messaged, I have aggressively been sliding into the DMs, and we finally made it happen. So I follow him. I have, I think, like a lot of you, been obsessed with this whole new conversation around beauty treatments and facelifts and all these things, and people doing it so much younger than I've ever known. And to me, his work, his before and afters are some of the most natural, beautiful, subtle, but also just whoa results. Allison did just say to me, this might be my favorite episode that we've ever done. I've never learned so much. I was taking notes. I was learning so much. I really think, and I don't say this about every episode with doctors and people like this. We have so many amazing episodes, but this one was just, it's so good. It's just really so good, so informative. He laid it out. He spelled it out clearly for us ladies. So without further ado, Dr. Karam. Dr. Karam, first and foremost, this is my best friend, Jen Meyer. Okay. I'm sure your wife definitely knows who she is. Erin forgot that it was Yom Kippur today. So but she's very upset about this. And I told her that I will be getting a discount when you do my facelift and that she will not.
There you go. No, you know, what's funny is this whole week, so many of Netta's friends literally were just texting her and about the fact that I'm going to be on this podcast because they follow you and they're all, oh my God, this is so exciting, this and that. So that's, you have a wide reach literally to her entire friend group.
I love that. Well, I mean, listen, I followed Netta's whole journey. I was with her from the moment she walked in to get her surgery. I followed the whole thing. I follow her recipes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay. So I was just saying on my Instagram, which, I posted, I was like, in my generation, I'm in my 40s. Facelifts, we associated facelifts with our grandmothers. We associated, I didn't know any of my mom's friends, at least, I don't think I did, who were getting facelifts in their 40s, certainly not in their 30s. Can you please tell us what has shifted?
So even in the beginning of my career, the average age and this is, spanning back 20 plus years, the average age of a person who's considering a facelift was definitely in the 60s. Mid 60s was sort of the typical age range. And we've seen it drift down further to, the early 50s, late 40s. And that's probably, I would say, the average or the sweet spot for, to do it if you're, and I'll explain why in a moment. But there's been a more recent trend, which is to see people who are in their 30s and early 40s wanting to have this procedure done. And I have some pretty strong opinions about that group that I'll be happy to share, but it is definitely a younger demographic who are kind of moving towards it, and not necessarily the right thing to do for that particular age demographic. I think we got to be a little bit careful in considering these type of surgeries for people who are in that particular age range. But like in the perimenopause and menopausal period, which is late 40s and early 50s, where aging really starts to progressively happen. and people start to notice that their face no longer looks the way it used to, and they're, distraught over these changes and know where it's all heading. It's probably better to get it done earlier in that process than it is to do it later.
Did you see this recent article in The Cut where the Forever 35 face?
Yeah, no, I saw that. Yeah. It's there's just, I think because a lot of the celebrities who've had the procedure done or some type of procedure done has gotten a lot of press. But if we want to kind of get into the specifics of why we're seeing people younger wanting to do this.
Yeah.
I think the reality is a couple things, and this is sort of an interesting era for facelifts. You all remember facelifts had kind of a negative connotation, right? It was kind of anyone who's getting a facelift, you were worried about them looking like an alien or looking unusual. Like, there's just this whole stigma associated with it. And then, a small group of us were producing these really natural looking results, and it kind of came at a time when Instagram and COVID, people were getting online a lot more. And then all of a sudden you're seeing for the first time really results that look so normal and natural. People don't have that unusual facelift look. And that sparked a tremendous amount of interest in facelifts and sort of changed the perception, slowly but surely. It's definitely still in the changing process. But when you can look natural and you can look normal and you can look like yourself, then it begs the question of why not do a procedure like that if it's the aging changes are bothering you. But I think right now, at the same time, people are losing interest and faith over this perception that they could use fillers and non-surgical treatments to basically either ward off, the need for a facelift, or basically get them to a place where they could, use these things as an alternative to a facelift. And the fact is, unfortunately, that can't happen with those. And it's become clear that putting too much filler in your face makes you look puffy and unnatural and weird in a different way, and you still sag through it. So, 20 years of all of this experimentation and a lot of, faith in these things has now come to a head where we're like, yeah, that doesn't really work. And so younger people who are flocking to these procedures are now looking for alternatives, especially when, you have cases out there in the public with certain celebrities and things like that, that people who are in their 30s or early 40s and look like they're in their 20s. So it creates this desire to basically do that. But I think at the same time, it's really created too many people wanting to get it done with not needing it. Like, we've definitely operated on a lot of people who are in that age group, but they really needed it. Like, meaning needed it as in like they're prematurely aging. They don't look like your typical 30-something. They have neck laxity, they have jowling, they have things that like a 50-something-year-old would, but they happen to be chronologically 30. So what are we going to do? Not help that person, really feel like a 30-something-year-old? Obviously, it's a dilemma because you don't want to start the process too early, but too many people are getting in there, and at the first little fold or the first little wrinkle, they're wanting to do a facelift now, and it's we turn away so many people that inquire like that, and it's just not the right thing to do for the patient to do it at that stage, in my opinion.
We also live in a Facetune world, which, I mean, listen, I have definitely Facetuned. I have definitely, don't like how my neck looks there. I'm going to just soften that. I'm not saying I haven't done that, but we live in this Facetune world where we look at photos of people who it's humanly impossible to get the result that Facetune gives you, right? But you go like, oh my God, did you see so-and-so? She looks so amazing. Apparently she got blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to go get blah, blah, blah. And it's just like so unrealistic,
but
correct?
Sarah, the other thing I have a funny issue with, and I'm sure, Doctor, you have seen this 1,000 times, especially on like high profile people that you do. Like, Sarah and I have very good friends who have done facelifts, and then you see them on Instagram using their talking about their favorite exfoliant and face oil that they can't live without, and that has changed their face and skin like overnight. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to make me insane. Yeah. Because you're like, by the way, God bless, you don't need to tell anyone you got a facelift. But at the same time,
it perpetuates. Yeah.
No, that's actually, you touched on an incredible point there, because I mean, I've been a part of that, with a lot of people that literally, I mean, funny, one person is a big online health and wellness and anti-aging influencer, like 1 million followers, whatever, and writes books on it, talks about all, she has courses and all this kind of stuff. And, she had a vertical restore, and she looks obviously very young for her age, but she doesn't credit the surgery. She credits the philosophies and the diet and
lemon
the lifestyle.
Water in the morning.
Yeah, all the things
Saunas.
all the things that she's advocating and selling as part of her thing. And one case was really interesting. This patient had the whole thing, and of course didn't want to tell anyone, but went on like a 4-week juice cleanse, and said that she came out of this thing looking like 15 years younger. And it was because of the juice cleanse. So like 40 of her friends went and bought this juice cleanse, hoping that they were going to look younger. And of course, no such luck. But that's the interesting part of it, is because you don't always get the truth behind people's, sort of transformations. But here's sort of like a simple, litmus test. I think if you're somebody who's in your early 50s or mid 50s or whatever, and there's obviously exceptions to this, but if you're in that age group and you truly have this facial shape of somebody who's in their 30s, you've had something done. Like, it's just pretty straightforward, because it's rare to see somebody not have some laxity, not have some neck stuff going on, or changes in volume, etc. by the time they're 50. It just seems to happen. And when it does, and again, bell-shaped curve, that we're talking like 80-something% of the people in that group, but that's definitely something that you can use as sort of a lie detector if you want.
And by the way, like, everyone, as we all know, do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is it's a dangerous territory when you are preaching to your audience of many followers, lying, basically saying, if you buy this product, if you drink this, you're gonna, have no wrinkles, you're gonna have a perfect jaw, you're gonna have no eyelid skin. It's a tricky line, right?
Yeah, no, it is definitely a tricky line, and it's definitely something that the consumer needs to be aware of. I mean, I can't tell you how many times our before and afters showed up on some, another person's, basically, like, they have a skincare, that they're promoting, and then they use a surgical before and after to show this as a skincare before and after. I mean, imagine that. This has been going on for years, but it's non-surgical treatments. God, I can't even tell you, probably at least 20 different times we've had to, go in there and ask them to take this stuff down, because they're using our surgical results as their non-surgical outcome. And the consumer, thinks that obviously they want to believe that this is possible. So they believe it and spend thousands of dollars on these things, and then ultimately be like, I mean, the whole industry is very, it's very confusing for people because there's just so much marketing that goes on, and there's so much different opinions about everything. And it makes it extremely difficult for the consumer to understand what's the right way to proceed and how to go forward. But I think that's probably one of the most, I would say one of the biggest reasons why I got into the social media part of my practice, is basically because I love, A, to educate, and B, I hate seeing people taken advantage of or misguided, in this industry, because I know for a fact that the people who are seeking these type of treatments really want to see real results. Like, that's bothering them, whatever the situation, whether it's a skin issue or whether it's laxity or whether it's they don't look as young as they feel anymore, et cetera. They really want to solve that problem. And I think when they're being misled for profit, it becomes a very, unfortunate situation for that person, because they're probably going to believe it,
Yeah. I mean, I want to talk about this in the back half of the episode, but I do believe that skincare can completely change your face. I mean, it really has for me. Like, when I'm not using retinol, and we'll talk about your skincare product, which I bought myself. You didn't send me. I bought that. I think that's how I originally DM'd you. I was like, wait a minute. I just bought your stuff. I'm obsessed, blah, blah, blah. But like, for me, if I go 2 weeks without using retinol, like the lines here are way more obvious than not.
No, we'll definitely talk about this whenever you want to kind of delve into it. But really from the very, very beginning of my surgical practice, I was one of the few surgeons that even cared slightly about skin. Like, surgeons cut and, lift and do all this kind of stuff. The skin part is like for the dermatologist to worry about. And for me, I just saw it as a continuum. I mean, you've got skin, and then you've got laxity, and then two of those things need to come together if you're going to have a young looking face. And I can't even tell you, like literally this morning, I operated on a 73-year-old patient. She was from Russia, background, and her skin there's actually the second patient this week from that region, just incredible skin, beautiful skin. It's in there, at 73.
I mean, it's genetic. I know Russians who smoke and drink and literally don't take care of themselves, and their skin is like plump
gorgeous
and perfect.
Yeah. There definitely could be, 100%, but like you talk about Southern California, 50-something-year-old literally baked in the sun for, where this is how like all my, friends, girlfriends, etc. all they did was sunbathe in the weekends. And, even for us, we were out in the sun all the time. But the point is when you have lovely looking skin and then we do a surgery like we do, my gosh, they look 1,000 times better than somebody who has really kind of like neglected their skin. And then they do a vertical restore and fat transfer and the whole 9 yards. They still don't look like a 30-something-year-old or 40-something-year-old as a result of the surgery. Like, it's incredible the impact of skin has on that. And that's something, at the end of the day, people can do literally on their own. And it's so effective if you do it the right way.
Okay, so I follow you, obviously. I see all the surgeries. I see all of it. It appears to me that you're kind of your go-to, and I don't see this with a lot of the other doctors, and correct me if I'm wrong, is fat transfer, lip lift, vertical restore, neck. That's kind of like the holy grail of what you do. And then sometimes you do a CO2 laser, but that's not always. Is that correct?
So the foundation is the vertical restore and fat transfer. And the simple concept is that the face starts to get elongated, the fascia elongates, and then the shape changes as a result of that. So with the vertical restore, we're lifting everything back up, but simultaneously, what's also happening to the aging face is you're losing volume in the fat around the eyes, around the mouth, the temples. These areas have deep fat pads that begin to diminish. So the aging process is a combination of that laxity that occurs plus volume loss. The laxity, the part that the vertical restore addresses is the lateral brow, the mid-face, jawline, and neck. But central face, the middle of the face, also sees elongation, which, you see extra skin around the eyes, and the top lip gets a little bit longer in some cases. So it's really, it starts with the foundation of the vertical restore and fat transfer. And then we look at those other areas, upper lids, lower lids, and lip, to see which ones, would come together in a balanced way. And then as far as the laser go, this is what's, truly fascinating is we use the contour TRL, which is actually an erbium laser. And it's very similar to CO2, it's just a quicker recovery and a little bit easier from a downtime point of view. But point is, we used to do about 50% laser in conjunction with these surgeries. And the outcomes were fantastic. But nowadays, literally, I would say 80-90% of our patients are using the Trifecta for like a year.
They don't need the CO2 laser.
I swear, it's amazing. I've done like 3 or 4 of them this entire year, which is insane. I mean, we used to do like 2 or 3 or whatever a week, and now we're doing 2 or 3 a year because the skin gets so much better just on the skincare that unless they have deep lines around the upper lip, etc., we don't really need to do laser surgery, which really makes the surgery a lot more comfortable for the person to go through. The laser is a real pain, not physically, but just the visual of it.
What would you say is the age that you could start on the Trifecta? Like in 20s? Is that too young?
No, actually, it's so skin goes through the process of collagen loss, all that kind of stuff, starting in the mid 20s, basically. Like I think 27 is sort of the peak of collagen production, and then from that point it gets less and less each year. You certainly don't have to start. Sun protection is number one thing that anyone should be doing. You don't need to necessarily do something like something that's like a retinol or vitamin C, all these kind of things at that stage. But if you really want to stay on top of it, like really, really stay on top of it. And this is, I mean, my wife basically was an example of this, because when we were in residency, she was in family medicine. I was in surgery, and we had a good friend who was a dermatologist, dermatology resident, and basically told her right then at mid-20s that if you want your skin to literally never age, I mean, this was literally over 20 years ago, 25 years ago, actually.
Tell us the secret.
Said sun protection, huge, like religiously, not like occasionally, whatever, like be all in with this. Number 2, retinol, vitamin C, and then a list of other actives. Do this every single day. Literally do it every single day. And my wife, and she's very habit oriented, meaning like if she believes something is good for her, she will do it religiously, like the best patient or best whatever you want to,
How good is her skin?
So she, well, no, I mean, this is amazing, because she grew up in San Diego, marathon runner, tennis player in high school. I mean, just in the sun all the time.
And that takes a toll on your face, right? All 100%, runners really struggle.
Yeah. Sun, discoloration, all this kind of stuff. And then anyway, so some pigmentation issues, all this kind of stuff. Her skin at 53, I'm not exaggerating. You can see the photos, literally looks better than it did when she was in her 20s and 30s. Truly looks better. Like, that's the thing. So I think, we think about how I got into it, all this kind of stuff. I mean, watching her skin get better. This was before I even became like a full-blown, facial surgeon, et cetera. But watching her skin literally transform before my eyes and get better made me believe that good skincare is a real thing. It's really worth doing. She's never done, lasers or any of these other things. It's always just been skincare and sun protection. So I learned a lot from that, and I think that was what got me to be religious with my surgical patients, to get them to get focused on their skin in addition to their surgery, to basically continue getting results that are going to get better and better with time, as opposed to, the issues of skin aging on top of the laxity changes or whatever. So it's a fascinating thing, honestly. And I think people don't realize that necessarily, the impact of that, and they just jump into lasers and chemical peels or any of these other type of bigger treatments, because they think bigger is going to result in bigger change, and it does. But the problem is the underlying cellular changes that are happening that are making the skin thinner, more discolored, et cetera. That's happening at the cellular level. So you wipe it away with a laser, they're just going to come back naturally with time. And so that's where the frustration, patients have, is like they go spend all this time and money and recovery through lasers, even deep CO2s and all these other things. And then a year later, they're kind of like starting to see that stuff happen again. But if you treat it on a daily basis, just like diet and exercise, if you do it on a daily basis, you'll see that your skin actually gets better with time, doesn't push back. So even if you do a laser, you sustain those results over the long run. So I always put those two things ahead of the treatments.
Okay, retinol thickens your skin, right?
Yeah, so retinol is such an incredible multitasking, ingredient, because what it does, first of all, it's a vitamin A derivative, as you know. It works at the cellular level, it gets taken up by the cell, and then goes inside the cell, and then it has these signals that cause the cell to, 1, increase its collagen production, 2, decrease pigmentation, 3, cell turnover. So the cells, turning over decrease, so there's not as much like dead, sluffy, dull stuff on the surface of the skin. I mean, just across the board, multitasking, all these different aspects, right? So you're doing something that is going, because remember, collagen is what gives the skin its thickness. It's basically what skin is. It's layers and layers of collagen, elastin. And if you're decreasing the production of collagen, which are the cells inside the skin, the fibroblasts make, if you're decreasing the production, the dermis of the skin thins with time. And when it thins, it's easier to break and bend. Therefore, you get wrinkles, you get crepiness, you get, this sort of like lack of suppleness to the skin. So the real name of the game when it comes to skin anti-aging is to do things that are going to stimulate collagen and increase skin thickness over time. So you get that suppleness, that fullness to your skin. So in my opinion, retinol is literally like a must-have.
It's the holy grail.
It's a holy grail.
The holy grail. Yeah.
But as you know, the problem is I'm, I think it's wonderful that you're doing it, able to do it. So few people can handle daily retinol.
Oh.
Because what happens is you start it, your skin starts to get red, it gets flaky. You've heard of people having these issues with it. And then you have to really kind of push forward and use it consistently for 2-3 weeks so your skin gets acclimated to it. But a lot of people can't tolerate that because it's almost like going through like a chemical peel recovery or some other type of thing. And some people, really, really thicker type of skin or good sort of, they can manage it and they don't hit that. But so many people only use it like 2 or 3 times a week. Even those who say that they're actually using it, it's only a couple times a week. So that doesn't necessarily give that consistency that it needs to, build the skin and do all the things that we want out of the retinol. And that was a huge reason why, when I developed that trifecta, I wanted to make sure it has retinol, but I needed it to be a retinol that everyone can use. So I split the dose, AM, PM, as you know, and used an encapsulated retinol so it slowly releases into the skin and allows basically anyone, even the sensitive skin types, to be able to tolerate it.
No, I'm not just saying this, honestly. I mean, yours is it still, because when I bought it, it was a 3-step process.
Yeah, it's a trifecta, yeah.
Yeah, okay, hello, duh, okay, trifecta, yes. And it's so, I tolerate it, no problem. Okay, so if we're talking
you have sensitive skin.
Yeah, not only do I have sensitive skin, I have thin skin. I'm trying, like my whole thing is like thicken my skin. How can I thicken my skin? I have real thoughts on the super intense deep lasers. Like I think Morpheus, I don't know where you sit on it. I don't know if you're affiliated at all with it, but I've seen horror stories from people. They lose fat in their face.
No, I'm probably the sort of like enemy number one to Morpheus 8 because
oh my God.
I've been talking about it for literally probably 5 or 6 years. I don't know how long it's been, but I never had it in my practice. I never used it, but so many people over the years have been coming to me for basically they're saying, I use this and now I look older. All my fat melted, et cetera,
yes.
and wanting fat transfers and things like that. And then, so at first I didn't take these people that seriously. I was like, they're probably just being, they're probably just aging, and then they're blaming the recent treatment that they had on, for it. But the numbers are astounding in terms of how many people have that concern and complaint. But then when you look at, and then it got me curious, and looking at where the energy is being placed in Morpheus 8, it's usually 4 to 5 millimeters below the skin, which is smack, right in the middle of the subcutaneous fat. So, heat and fat don't do well together, just like you imagine, butter melting, things like that. It's like, you're putting energy with the idea that you're going to tighten the tissues, but the energy deposits are going into the layer that subcutaneous fat are. And it's probably the reason why people are finding themselves aged as a result of these treatments, which is terrible because, they're obviously, forget the cost and forget all the other things associated with it. To come out expecting to look younger and then look older is a major issue. And I think and then just on that same note, I think good advice to people in general as they're seeking these type of treatments, the last thing you want to be is an early adopter to these type of treatments. It's a really, really good advice because, and just again, being in this thing for 20 plus years, I have seen treatments come and go so frequently. It usually has like a 2 to 4 year lifespan, some new treatment. And then people catch on that either it doesn't work or it's actually dangerous or has some issue associated with it. And then it goes away. And then the next hot thing comes out. And then so that, that gets the marketing wave and off you go. But, like Threads, for example, Threads, when I first was coming out, it was like the hottest thing for about 2 years. And then, even myself, I started using them in fellowship, and I was like, this is absurd. It looks terrible. B, patients are in a lot of discomfort because we use the permanent barbed sutures. You can imagine, like now these are dissolvable. Back then it was the permanent barbed, and so that like literally disappeared off the market because it became apparent there's no good. And then what does it do? It comes back like 15 years later in a different form. Artefil, same thing. Artefil, you might remember, was on the market, this like more or less long-term filler. Well, you got all these granulomas and tissue issues with it. And then next thing you know, that goes away, but it comes back as Belafil, same product, but just a different name. So you got to be really, really careful that you don't jump into one of these things early, because it usually takes a little bit of time and then you realize what it's actually, if it's good or not.
Wait, so you're pro threads or not?
Yeah, I'm definitely not pro threads. I'm very anti threads.
Yeah.
Only from the point of view is it really literally doesn't do anything long term. 3 to 6 months on average is how long you'll get benefit from it. And, it does come with certain risks and things like that, infection, protrusion, all these other things that can go. But for something that's not going to give you durability, what's the point of it?
You have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card. That's just kind of like you see someone with that card and you go, okay, what's going on with you?
There are a lot of different credit cards out there, and it's always confusing on which one you should be using, which one you should get. So the Chase Sapphire Reserve card has a lot of perks. They give you a $300 annual travel credit. Okay. So you can use it for a hotel room. You can use it for a boat ride. They also give you, in addition to that, a $300 annual dining credit. Okay. Go to a restaurant. Take a girl out for dinner, put it on them. They are paying. Anyway, we have travel questions that people sent in that we're going to answer.
Wait, can I read one? I got to read one. It's really funny. We would go on vacation with the same family every year, and now I want out. Did you write that, Erin?
Wait, what does that mean? We would go on vacation with the same family every year, and now I want out?
Yeah, meaning like that's a tradition. It's a tradition. You have a tradition. God, and all of a sudden you're like
getting locked into a family and you want to switch. That's really tough. You gotta move. You gotta move to another country or something.
It's so awkward. Like how do you get out of that? I mean,
no, I don't think you can. I think you're locked in for life.
I mean, you're gonna have to almost fake your own death.
I was gonna say leave your husband. Yeah, you got to change partners just to get out of this couple.
Because
sin.
you can't be honest. I'm gonna set you. The right thing to do is to be honest. The right thing to do is say,
not feeling you anymore. Family to family, we're not clicking.
I don't want to do this. So you might have to. That's not going to help the situation. That's just going to hurt their feelings. So you need to be able to take care of yourself, which is it's no longer good for you to do this trip anymore without hurting their feelings. They're probably not bad people. You just don't want to continue the tradition. So you're going to have to, I think, take a year off from vacationing. You're going to just have to say, we've decided life is hectic. We're going to have to take this year off. We just want to be together at home, really, really spend time with each other.
Don't secretly go somewhere because they're going to find out.
You can't do that. You're going to have to just suck it up.
You're going to run into someone who knows them.
Take one for the team. Just say, they can't be upset for you saying, we just want to stay home, and then let it kind of like die slowly. Then the next year, maybe it'll be a little bit easier to then we'll come up with a second excuse then.
Write us again a year from now.
Write us again a year from now. But at first, that's what you're going to do. You're not going anywhere. You're just going to prioritize just being alone as a family at home. You want to take the year off. I think that's good advice. My boyfriend and I are going on a trip. I want to fly first class, but he wants to save and take economy. What do we do?
You say, great, you should take economy. I'll be in first class. You should save that money. I don't want to. I'll see you on the plane with a little curtain between us.
Right. You're like, okay, that's all good. I totally respect that. It's 2025, 2026. I want to fly first class. So
we have different priorities.
We have different priorities. All good.
And by the way, I think in a relationship, you should discuss what your financial priorities are. Thank God, Simon and I, we are aligned, okay? We do not care about stuff. I don't need bags. I don't need shoes. I don't need jewelry. We want to travel nice. I want a nice plane seat. I want a nice hotel room. I know, but you're old. Like, you're old. You've gotten to that point now. This person's probably young. Yeah, but I respect that she's like, I want to travel nice on my way there.
See, I was going to give different advice. I was going to say, respect that he doesn't feel comfortable spending the extra money. You guys are a team. He's your boyfriend. You're in a partnership. If he doesn't feel comfortable with it, suck it up. Who cares? Like, wouldn't you be happier sitting with him in economy than sitting alone in business? Like, is it really that important? You're just paying to sit.
That's so cute. See more rewards at chase.com/reserve it. Cards issued by JP Morgan Chase Bank, NA, member FDIC, subject to credit approval. Terms apply. you know I love talking about my favorite non-toxic products. Guess on Earth is one of them. So we are loving our non-toxic cleaning products from Guess on Earth. They smell amazing and they work so well. Okay, you can use the all-purpose cleaner on literally any surface. It's completely streak-free. It leaves no residue. You buy the one aluminum bottle one time, and then you dilute the concentrated refills, and you just keep doing that, and you save so much for the environment by doing it that way, and it really, really works. So we've been using the all-purpose cleaner, also the dish soap and the foaming hand soap for months. Also, their new laundry detergent is so great. They have this breakthrough formula that uses glycopids, enzymes, and bio-based surfactants to lift stains and odors. It's highly concentrated, so you only need a few small pumps for an entire load of laundry. It's safe for all kinds of fabrics, including delicates, natural fibers, linens, and sensitive skin. You can use it on your favorite daughter, okay? Shout out to us. Personally, on my non-toxic mom chat, we are always swapping ideas back and forth about what the best new products are that are clean. Guess on Earth, I am so psyched to be working with you guys. They're soon going to be carried at Erewhon and the Detox Market. So now you know it's really, really legit. And I'm talking about it so you know that it's clean. Guess on Earth. I am so psyched. So visit guestsonearth.com and use the code Foster at checkout for 20% off your first order. That's GUESTONEARTH, like planet Earth. You live there. You should know how it's spelled. .com and use the code Foster for 20% off your first order.
On that topic, are you also against filler?
Not as a class. I'm not a fan of filler in the way of trying to. Okay, so let's back up for a second. So there's two different ways people use fillers. You know, some people have a little hollowing under their eyes. You put a little bit of filler there, fills it up, looks nice. Lips, you know, deflate a little bit. You know, put a little bit of filler. Or you want a little bit of augmentation. Great use of filler. You know, maybe a little hollowing in the temples. Nice use of filler.
Right.
The areas where filler, and same thing, you know, sculpture in those areas and things like that.
I did sculpture in my temples, and I honestly saw a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. So those are good, you know, awesome indications for these products. The times when people get into trouble with it is they get into their mind that if they use fillers, say, for example, on the outer cheek, or use it in, you know, the jawline to mask or lift the face. Like if your face is dropping, like, you know, you're 50 something, your face is dropping, and you're like, the injector says, hey, let's put a bunch of filler in your outer cheek here, or put filler in, you know, this part of your jawline or at the angle of the mandible, and we'll give you kind of a lifted look. Well, okay, you do that the first time, doesn't, you know, you don't see a ton of difference, but maybe a little bit of an improvement if you kind of squint, you know, just kind of imagine it. But then you do that again, and then again, and again, and again. Next thing you know, 2, 3 years, 4 years have passed, and you've had 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 rounds of fillers in that period of time. The filler starts to change the structure of the face because the filler doesn't completely go away. This is another one of those, you know, misunderstandings, you know, misinformation, not to blame anyone. It's just, I think we are all under the impression that fillers last 6 to 9 months and then they go away. And so you got to get on the cycle of using them. But then later on, MRI studies came out and just looking at people's faces, and they just look different than they used to, and they're not getting better. So what ends up happening is then you look at what's going on with the filler, and the filler is creating a foreign body reaction, you know, because it is a foreign body at the end of the day. Even though it's hyaluronic acid, it's not free hyaluronic acid the way hyaluronic acid exists in the tissues. It's bound polysaccharides, basically like a sugar chain, to make it last longer, right? So your body sees this and it wants to break it down. That's why it wants to dissolve it. But in the breakdown process, inflammation leads to scar tissue. And now, in addition to the fact that not only does the filler not completely go away, but you've got some scar tissue left behind that changes the shape of the face technically forever. So there's those reasons why I'm not a fan of using filler as an alternative to surgery. And I just think people who, especially in their 30s, start the process really early, you got to be really mindful, because by the time you get to be 50, that's like 20 years of filler usage. And this process at the tissue level is not good for the tissues to be under this sort of stress for that long either. Not to mention one of the more recent, challenges that have been clear is because deep plane facelifts have become more popular and people get fillers in their mid-face. And now surgeons are going into these spaces and it's sticky and it's scarred and it's harder to dissect that delicate deep plane off of like the facial nerves and the muscles and all this kind of stuff, which makes surgery much more difficult. And now again, I mean, most of the patients I operate on have had a long history of filler use, but at the same time, I do this on a daily basis so I can get through these cases. I always worry, I always think about, like a younger surgeon operating on a case like that. What are they going to, are they going to back out and not do as thorough of a job? Or are they going to carry on and then risk, complications, et cetera? So there's just more to the story than I think than we were all used to be aware of when it came to fillers.
We know
I didn't even think about that.
We know a person or two, but definitely who just got a facelift and said that her doctor told her after the facelift that he had to spend so much time scraping filler out of her face before he could do the actual facelift.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it literally oozes. This is the thing. And these are people who've had it in for years and, should be gone. But when you get in there surgically, it literally oozes from the tissues. I mean, it's like this clear gel oozing from the tissues. And then there's this like coherent lump of tissue that is like, just fibrosis. So you gotta be careful. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a very, very clean way of addressing facial aging. I mean, clean in the sense of timely, financially efficient, low risk, et cetera. And it basically starts with first in your early 20s and 30s, I mean, basically from like 20s, 30s, and 40s, focusing almost exclusively on skin. And then when laxity starts to happen, just know in the back of your mind, if you're going to address it one day, you're not going to address it with these other things. You're going to plan for and then eventually do a good facelift, a good high quality facelift, and then you're done again for a long time. It just becomes super simple.
I mean, you touched on something before that I think we don't talk about, and I mean, I know we don't talk about enough, which is the connection between estrogen and our hormones.
Oh, yeah.
And what our face looks like. It's like women are only now just feeling comfortable saying the word menopause. Yeah. I mean, I know women whose estrogen is in the toilet in their late 30s. I know women in menopause at 40. So it's like, I think a lot of women don't even know the connection. So will you talk to us about the connection between estrogen and your face?
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought it up to clarify and get a little bit more in depth on it. There's a direct correlation between the two. So remember when I said there's a peak of collagen at 27? Yeah. That's also the peak of estrogen in women. It peaks at that age. So when you follow the collagen curve and you follow the estrogen curve, they literally parallel each other. They're literally just like the same exact shape. And when you get to perimenopause and menopause, estrogen levels drop, and so goes, skin, facial laxity. It's almost like there's and I don't know if anyone's ever been able to directly understand this correlation, because the skin is very easy. If estrogen and collagen are like linked together. So the collagen diminishes as estrogen diminishes. It's that simple. But what's fascinating for me from where I sit and watching patients is as soon as they enter this period of perimenopause and menopause, it's like an on switch goes on and then the face starts to sag. And when you see younger people, like we just mentioned, a lot of times they have, as you said, they have low estrogen levels because of some type of genetic condition, or maybe it's some scenario they had to take out their ovaries. And I've seen that my whole career, like patients who have had reason to have their ovaries removed, and they go into premature menopause as a result of that, and their skin is just incredible, the difference of their skin in that period of time after that happens. So it's very, very closely related. And I do think I think talking about it more and making, people aware that they're not alone in this situation, and that they don't have some kind of like, flaw to their system that they're aging. I mean, aging is natural. It's a normal part of it. It's just the only part that requires any type of consideration of treatment is if the aging is bothering you emotionally. That's the only thing, right? I mean, and I think in the world that the world that I'm in, everyone that I see for surgery, for any of these things, come to me with exactly the same thing that they're saying. They're saying, I took a photo, I don't look like myself, I get videos, I don't want to take pictures of myself anymore, I no longer look like myself, and it bothers me. Just not looking like me bothers me, because in their mind's eye, and this is what's fascinating, no matter what age you are, in your mind, if you're healthy, you're pretty much like in your 30s. Even the 70-something-year-old that I operated on this morning, when I asked her, how she literally feels like a 30-something-year-old. And the mental age never totally catches up. And so when the physical face doesn't match that, it becomes a point where they're distraught and they're bothered by it. And I don't know if this is, and I should say, I assume and almost would say with confidence, this is not something that everyone experiences or feels, but certainly anyone who's seeking cosmetic, or facial rejuvenation type treatments feel that exact feeling. So it's a lot deeper than just like, oh, I just want to look like I have a tight jawline or neck or pretty skin or whatever it is. Like there's much more involved in it.
Do you feel like there's a connection? And you don't have to answer this because you're not an endocrinologist or whatever, but do you feel like when you see certain women who are on bioidentical estrogen and things like this, who are older, can you tell, or it's not really a one size fits all?
So this is
situation?
It's interesting because a lot of our patients who have surgery are on, some type of hormone replacement, et cetera.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to slow down the laxity aspect of facial aging. And that's what's interesting. And I don't know if it's because, if there's like a trigger point, or that's why I'm saying if there's more to than just simply directly related to this, but the timing is very interesting in the sense how closely it's related to these endocrine curves. But it doesn't seem like you can escape it by taking hormone replacement, et cetera. Like at least you can't fully escape it. Now, who knows if you weren't taking it, if it would happen sooner or not, or whatever it is. Like there's no way to control for that. There's such variations between what people are doing in terms of when they start and all these other things that it's hard. So I think that's not necessarily a good reason to start. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons to start for people, which is outside my area of expertise, obviously, but that's not necessarily one of them. But it is a fact, because it's for men, obviously, who have these type of surgeries and things like that. It doesn't seem to have a timing that's as closely related to any particular age. I mean, there's some guys who have laxity in their 40s, and there's some guys who don't have any laxity until they're 60. But the period is much closer in women.
So here's a question, and I know it'll vary from person to person, but what would you say? It's a two-part question. What would you say is the most ideal age for a woman to get a facelift? So they're like right in that moment, and then I heard that your next so I heard a couple things. They're saying like you should get another facelift 10 years later, but that you can only get 2 facelifts in your life. So it's kind of like a multi-part question.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Those are good questions. Okay, so first of all, there's no way to say what's the perfect age for somebody to do it, because there's 2 factors.
It's when you start going like this. I said it on Instagram. You're like, when you look in the mirror and when you're like, I look better.
Yeah.
I know, but I do think like you both were saying, because of how fucked up our world is and how messed up our world is with all these selfies. Sorry, I shouldn't swear, but like videos.
No,
and
you can swear.
TikToks
You can swear.
And Facetune. I think so many people and, gorgeous women like you talked about who are like, drink your, lemon water. I think people are so much earlier being like, oh God. So I guess I'm just curious, like a rough.
Okay. So here's my general rule of thumb. And this is how I guide patients. So there's 2 criteria. that have to be met in order for you to be a candidate for a procedure like a vertical restore, for example, a facelift.
Okay.
Number one, you have to anatomically, objectively have enough laxity to justify a procedure like this, right? So like you can't come and say, hey, I want to do this, and you're barely moving your face and it's like nothing, there's nothing there, right? You know what I'm saying? Like objectively, I can tell you when I see that, hey, come back in, whatever, however many years, you're not there.
Oh, so you send a lot of people away?
A lot of people. I mean, a lot of people.
Wow.
So that's one major criteria. That's objective. That's just like, I have to physically see your face, move to a certain degree and there has to be a noticeable enough improvement for there to be surgical justification to go forward. So that's one that the patient has no influence over. It is what it is, right? That's my judgment. The second is, if criteria number one is met, the second criteria is, how much is this bothering them? How much are they bothered by it? Because again, if you just think about it as, well, if the face moves, if there's a little bit of jowling and a little laxity, then you should go get a facelift. Well, if it's not bothering you at the moment, then there's no value to a facelift. There's literally no point to it, right? I mean, it's got to be on your radar. You got to be like semi-obsessed with these changes for you to justify, the downtime, the risk, all the things that go along with it. Because if it's not bugging you enough, then it's kind of like, geez, what if something goes wrong? You get an infection, you get a hematoma or whatever situation, and it wasn't even bothering you enough to say, you know what, I had to do this thing, right? So it might feel like it goes without saying that it should bother you, but a lot of people can live 5 or 10 years with laxity, and in their minds, they look great. In their mind, they're confident, they feel great, there's no issue. And then it gets to a point, for whatever point that is, beyond that, and then they're like, oh no, I need to get it now. Like now is the time, So from my point of view, I like to see a person who's really, motivated or inspired to get this thing done. And like they're in the mirror doing this like 10 times a day, for example. Every time they say, they're like, hey, I want to lift, and I feel like that. Oh, that looks like I used to, and this and that. But usually, by the time somebody, goes through a consultation process and all this other stuff, reaches out to a plastic surgeon, that criteria is pretty much clear, because they obviously have better things to do than try to have a consultation with a plastic surgeon if it's not really bugging them, right? So that it kind of goes hand in hand. It's just, then we just have to make sure that they're not being premature about it, which we're seeing more and more people prematurely coming forward and saying, hey, I want to get a facelift, and really they don't need a facelift at this stage.
Well, yeah, because we're seeing before and afters of people. It's not even about looking younger anymore. It's just about, in their minds, looking better.
Yeah.
Right? We see these before and afters. There's that famous meme that goes around, nobody's ugly, they're just poor. Of like all these.
Terrible.
It's terrible,
Yeah.
but it's just like, it's a terrible thing. But this is the world we live in now. So it's not even only about, I want to look younger. It's like, I just want to look better, because look at these people who look, in their eyes, so much better.
And I think that's honestly a very, first of all, it's fundamentally terrible to have that as your sort of an influence. But again, I don't know if it's, maybe we see a different category of people who really are, they're normal people that really have truly, so many of them have no good reason to, you think about it from like a, some people live on like some ranch in the middle, literally of nowhere, and they don't greet anyone but just like 2 or 3 people that live on the ranch with them. But for them to look their best, when they wake up in the morning, is important to them, because again, it gives them a sense of energy to look at themselves, not looking tired and not looking, sort of drawn or whatever the aging changes are, and it makes them feel like they have energy. It's a weird psychology. Like
Totally.
I remember the CEO of a big hospital chain in San Diego years and years ago. She was 70 and she had a facelift before, and then her facelift was sort of wearing down. But she was somebody who literally, I'm not exaggerating, like ran 7 miles a day, did yoga, did headstands, all this stuff at 70, right? And then her facelift starts to fatigue. I can't remember if she got it done at 50 something or whatever it was. Now she's 70. And then she started feeling like, when she looks at herself, she's like, gosh, that person that I see should not be doing headstands and yoga, should not be running 7 miles a day. This is not the vital sort of look of somebody. So it started playing with her mentally, and she actually started to slow down physically. And then she goes, she comes in, we do this thing for her, and sure enough, she's back doing all that stuff because she feels like young again. It's like the connection between your appearance and the way you feel inside is very real for a lot of people.
AG1 is a staple for us. So I'm very lazy. It is for the lazy person who wants to do wellness, who wants to be healthy, but does not want to be taking 15 supplements a day. I personally just can't stand doing that. AG1 is every single thing that you need in one scoop. It is the easiest way to be healthy. They also have AG1 Next Gen, which is all these new delicious flavors. So there's the original, which tastes sort of like pineapple and vanilla. If you're used to that one, that's a good one. But now they have citrus, which is like lemon and orange. They have tropical, which is papaya and passion fruit. And they have berry, which is what Simon's favorite is, blueberry and strawberry flavor. So what is in AG1? AG1 has 75 and more vitamins, minerals, pre and probiotics, and superfoods, all in one scoop, okay? In that scoop, it is going to support energy, it improves digestion, gut health, it fills all the nutrition gaps that you have in your diet because unfortunately the food that we eat just doesn't give us all the things that we need. And it really supports your immune health. So me personally, when I'm traveling a lot, I'm busy, I'm not exercising as much, I'm drinking wine, I really, really feel a difference when I'm drinking my AG1 and when I'm not. They have done 4 clinical studies on AG1 Next Gen, and it's backed by 4 clinical trials, clinically shown to fill the common nutrition gaps and support your gut health, okay? Very, very good stuff. So your daily health drink just got more flavorful. If you head to drinkag1.com/Foster, and you'll also get a free welcome kit worth $76 when you subscribe, including 5 AG1 travel packs, a shaker, a canister, and a scoop. That's drinkag1.com/Foster to get started.
Fall is my favorite time of year. It's about slowing down. The clocks are changing. The leaves are turning. We are prioritizing being at home more. We are swapping, those summer days, which I feel about, for quieter weekends and cozy nights. And we are watching our favorite shows. It's all the last 3 months of the year things, which is why nothing says cozy like cozy sheets, cozy blankets, all things cozy bath towels, cozy bath mats, all of it. Boll Branch is 100% organic cotton. Every wash, they just get softer and softer and softer. It is made with the highest quality organic cotton. Boll Branch bedding, you guys, you've listened to Erin and I talk endless about it. It's on every bed in our home, including our inserts, including the towels, including all the things that I just listed off at the top of this. It is made from the finest 100% organic threads. It is unmatched durability and craftsmanship. You are set to get your softest, highest quality sleep on these crisp fall nights. Boll Branch makes upgrading your bed easier than ever with curated bundles for your sanctuary of comfort. Get 20% off bed bundles for a limited time, plus free shipping and returns. Only at bollandbranch.com/Foster20. That is BOLLAND branch.com/Foster20 for up to 20% off bundles. Exclusions apply. Are you suffering from wrinkles and fine lines? Check. Sore jaw? Check. Eczema? I don't have that, but a lot of people do. Migraines? Check. Acne sometimes. Scar tissue? Check. Wound healing sometimes. Relaxation? Check, 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 check. And so much more. Okay. We love working with Bond Charge. We love working with Bond Charge because we get a discount on their products. Bond Charge is a holistic wellness brand with a huge range of evidence-based products to optimize your life in every way. The thing that is the go-to for me, maybe it's not the go-to for everyone else, but in this line, it is the red light face mask, okay?
it's just the way that I calm down. It's my time for me. It's when I want to close my eyes, do a meditation. It's like such a nice check-in with myself. And then on top of it, I'm getting all the, the beauty benefits and the health benefits that I just mentioned. We also have the red light sleeping bag, which I don't know if you heard, but Valentina's been going through some autoimmune stuff. And the number one thing, besides, of course, her medication that people suggested was red light therapy, red light therapy. It works. So we're loving the sleeping bag. So both near infrared and red light, it is going to boost collagen and elastin production. Okay. I'm talking about the mask now. It is super lightweight. It does not get hot. You can wear this while you're also, if you're not napping like me, you can walk around the house. You can do housework. You can get work done, whatever it is you need to do. It's also a great gift. The holidays are coming. I would say that this is an amazing, amazing gift. Guys, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to boncharge.com and you're going to use the code FOSTER to save 15% off. That is boncharge.com and use coupon code FOSTER to save 15%.
I want you to explain, if you can. I didn't even know until, recently, that there's actually different types of facelifts. Okay, so there's a doctor that a lot of my friends have gone to, okay? And they go in, they look good when they go in, and they come out and they just end up looking like they slept for 500 hours. They look natural, they look good, but it's not a deep plain facelift. It's a different type of facelift that literally, then I see them 2 years later, I'm like, oh, you don't look that good anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So someone was like, explain.
You just nailed it. So
okay,
this is the issue. So for 10 years of my own practice, I was using the same vector, going up, but I wasn't using.
Wait, what's a vector? The type?
Sorry, the vector is the direction of the lift, right? I've always had this philosophy that if you go vertically in terms of your vector, like it's a very simple mindset. Like my mind, the face ages down, so you want to go back up, right? It's like that. So you're going in the opposite direction of the changes. So that's a vertical direction, which is in direct contrast to most facelifts and traditional facelifts, which is a face is being pulled sideways, right? So, which is makes no sense to me. And bottom line is I was using a technique that was not the deep plane, and the results actually were beautiful and natural, but I would notice that they would start to fatigue. In that case, 5-7 years, they were starting to fatigue. They were starting to kind of look, and sometimes even as early as 2-3 years, they didn't look as good as they did 6 months after the surgery or whatever. And just being critical of my own results and also wanting to get, be having the best facelift technique available, et cetera. I started looking for ways of improving that. And what my own sort of journey took me towards is that the deep plane, which has been around since the 80s, is the technique that actually can give you the longest durability, because you're releasing all the, sort of the ligaments and things like that are holding the face in a certain position. So you're releasing everything and then you're moving it. So there's no tethering and you're not pulling against anything. So you get much more durability with a deep plane. So anyway, so I made that switch somewhere around 2016, I think it was. And immediately I started seeing the results were higher impact, there are bigger results. But also what I've seen in the last almost 10 years is those patients are just rock solid. They still, obviously there's going to be a little bit of aging, but they look fresh still. You know what I mean? And that freshness really for me is, I think it's impossible to get with a technique that doesn't involve a deep plane. So a vertical restore includes a deep plane dissection, but it's not a deep plane facelift, meaning that it's not going in the direction of a deep plane. It's going more vertically, et cetera, but it releases all the things that a deep plane does and then some. So you get a very, very powerful lift, but also a lift that you can feel secure that you're not going to come back in 2 years and look like the same or need another lift, because so many patients we see on a weekly basis for surgery are revision surgeries from other surgeons who've done this exactly as you said 2-3 years ago, and then they're starting to look like they need another one, and then they're bummed out about it, obviously, because they just, I mean, it feels like yesterday they went through the whole procedure and not getting that durable. And these are people who've actually had quote unquote deep plane facelifts, because there's a difference between how you perform a deep plane versus what you call a deep plane too. So there's a lot of, experience and track record and all that stuff has to be really taken into consideration, because when something like the deep plane becomes so popular, everyone, all these, surgeons want to say they're doing a deep plane because they realize patients aren't going to go in for another type of a lift. They really want a deep plane. So they'll attempt it or do part of it or whatever it is sometimes, or not just, they don't have the experience to do a really well done deep plane. So you don't get the full benefit of it either. So these are
they all the scar? Like, is every single facelift, do you have to have the scar at the ear? Is that kind of just like always how it has to go?
It's pretty standard for almost every technique to include this area. But again, deep planes, because the tension is taken off of the skin, you're not pulling the skin, you're lifting the fascia. And so there's very little or no tension on the skin. The scars end up healing really, really fine in most cases. But there are some endoscopic techniques and things like that where you try to avoid this part of the incision, but then you end up with an incision on the inside of the hair or, in the back of the ear and things like that. But at the end of the day, again, goes back to readiness, right? Like the feeling, my wife, for example, her feeling was that because it all just started happening for her. She's been watching, obviously, her face for a period of time, but when she turned 52, there was like a pretty rapid progression of aging that was happening around her face.
Oh my, she looks so good. I'm sorry. I just have to say, no, her face is so plump, but it looks, I'm not just saying this to you, it looks so natural.
No,
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, that's really I would say the number one reason people choose me for their surgeries in general, and the number one reason why I chose to operate on my wife and why she chose me to be her surgeon, frankly, is because natural is like, there's no exception to that. Every patient that comes out looking normal and natural, which is so important to our patients. But, the point is she was so, really ready to do this that like the last thing on her mind was incisions and things like that. Right. I mean, our patients end up healing with like really faint little lines, but as incisions, and it's a great trade-off. But at the end of the day, if you cut skin, you're going to have a scar. And that's just something to know.
On that note, obviously, because I'm obsessed with your Instagram, it actually seems like your patients have a relatively easy recovery process.
Yeah.
You're watching them day 1, day 2, day 3.
And they don't look crazy. I mean, they look,
true.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting because, if you notice, almost none of them have bruising and things like that. I mean, there's a lot that goes on to prevent those type of things. But a big thing that helps with that is the fact that we do these under local with IV sedation. And the procedures take, generally speaking, under 3 hours or like 2.5 hours or so to do them. And the less the tissues are exposed, the less they swell. The more efficient you are, more experienced you are at performing these surgeries, the less bruising you get, all these kind of things that do definitely help recovery. And I mean, those examples are basically just anyone who, we ask every patient after, before or after surgery, whenever we remember to, hey, would you want to share your journey with the public, basically? And surprisingly, a good number of people, I don't know if it's quite 50%, but there's a good percentage of people that literally volunteer to do that. And it's wonderful because they're so appreciative of those who did it for them that they want to do it for others. And it really helps people kind of calibrate their expectations and understand what things are going to look like and feel like and all that kind of stuff. So we have a great community.
What is the recovery so obviously I've seen it on your Instagram, so is Jen. But what exactly is the recovery process like? Yeah,
it's interesting. So the first week, we did this interesting video. We had it on Instagram, but we also put it on YouTube just recently. We just made a new video for it. It's called the love-hate cycle of Facelifts. So everyone comes in loving, literally like loving me, thinking, I'm going to give them this amazing transformation, etc. So there's a lot of love before surgery. And then and then I do my thing, and then they're home and they're starting to swell up, and then they start looking weird, and they and then they're starting to question like, oh God, what if I'm not the one who's going to turn out okay? What if what if it stays like this? What if they get all these thoughts in their head, and then they a little bit of regret, like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done this, and then that's when they start to, we joke, this is when they start to hate me, and there's like doubts seeps in, and then so the first week, day 3 and 4, swelling is peaking, it's increasing, and then it plateaus day 5 and 6. And then starting day 7, like clockwork, it starts to get better. Every day gets better pretty quickly. So by the time 2 weeks rolls around for most people, they no longer look, they don't look like scary weird anymore. So we always joke with them, is like, yeah, you can probably go into a grocery store and you're not going to scare the little kids, at 2 weeks. But if you did in the first week, everyone's going to be staring at you. And so 2 weeks seems to be the kind of like normalization of the face, but it doesn't mean that you're actually healed at that point. Healing, it goes on for weeks and months after that, but you're in pretty good shape by 2 to 3 weeks, which is pretty early after a facelift for most people.
Okay, so you're going out to dinner at 4 weeks?
Oh, you're even before. I would say, honestly, with people who don't know you, they're probably not even going to look at you twice by 2 to 3 weeks after surgery for most cases.
Well, maybe under your care, but I'm
not talking about our patients, because I honestly don't know what other surgeons' patients look like, quite honestly. But I just know when we do like a second surgery on somebody, or somebody had a friend they had it, or whatever it is, they always say like, "Gosh, my recovery was so much quicker and so much easier."
Yeah. Okay. So we have a lot of friends who go and they do like their eyes first. Like we have a lot of friends, right? We have a lot of friends right now who are like, I'm just going to go do my eyes, or I'm just going to do like a brow lift, know? And it's so interesting because like, of course I want to make this my own private consultation, but I won't. But like, I've had a low brow. You look at pictures of me when I'm 20, I just have a low brow. That's just sort of my anatomy.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember I said to a doctor once, I was like, oh, I have such a low brow. I have no eyelids. Should I, do my eyes? And he goes, don't ever let anyone touch your eyes. It's not going to make you look younger. It's going to make you just look different.
Yeah.
And that's not with everybody. He's like, that's just the way that it's shaped for you. You just got to be careful. And I'll never forget that he said that to me. So I do think not everybody is the same. We all do
100%,
have
100%.
Exactly.
That story is perfect, and it would have been exactly what I was literally going to say the same thing to you. I didn't realize you saw somebody for that. I was going to say like,
I saw him at a party.
Yeah,
I saw him at a party, and I walked at my dad's wedding. He's like this really famous plastic surgeon. It's my dad's wedding, and I walked up to him. I was like, "Can I just show you my, whatever?"
Yeah. No, that's best. That's perfect advice. It's absolutely right. You're first of all, just because a brow is on the lower side does not make it a feature that needs to be lifted. Because it's all about balance. Like you're beautiful. Obviously, your brow is exactly where it should be to give you that balance and harmony. If your brow goes higher, you're going to look different and probably throw off the balance and harmony of the whole face. But there is an aging component that happens where your brow might come a little bit lower, the corners of the brow might come lower, whatever it is. And that just simply needs to go back to where it was when you were in your 20s and 30s, not in a new position that you've never had before. Yeah. That would be a mistake, right? So that's kind of the thinking about this stuff is it's truly restorative. It should not be cosmetic or something that gives a person a new feature that they didn't have before. These type of procedures.
You guys, if I don't do something, if I don't see you in the next 4 years, I'll be blind because my forehead will be like I won't be able to drive.
No, you're good. Yeah, it doesn't happen that quickly. But the point is, you're right. I mean, there's a point where the eyelids and things like that get heavy. But to answer, I think the question that you're alluding to, there's been a lot of increase in people wanting to do like part of these things, eyelids.
Yes, sorry, thank you.
No,
yes,
it's okay.
That was my question.
Yeah, and it's totally appropriate. Yeah, it's appropriate in some cases, and it's totally not appropriate in others. So each case has to be looked at sort of carefully. I was just having a conversation about this earlier today, actually. For example, some people's lower eyelids, they start to look tired and drawn and all this kind of stuff. And you think, well, oh yeah, well, you need a lower blepharoplasty. But the reality is sometimes, not in all cases, and sometimes the lower eyelid looks like that because the midface has started to droop downward. It's starting to depress and go down. So if you go in there and you take out fat from the lower eyelid and call it a blepharoplasty, you've actually worsened that situation. You've actually
made it. It has nothing to do with the eyes.
Yeah, made it worse. You made the eyes look more hollow. Because the eyelid cheek junction is already longer because the midface has gotten longer, and now you've just made it longer and hollow, which makes you look worse. So the diagnosis of all this stuff is really important. And so in certain cases, again, if the cheek is down, then you shouldn't just do a piecemeal lower blepharoplasty. If you have puffiness under your eyes, volume, fat loss, and your midface is down, well, you got to wait and do like a vertical restore type of a procedure where your midface comes up, fat transfer, and a lower blepharoplasty, and then all of a sudden the eye looks actually younger. So it all just depends on and trust me, when I say this, I have done those piecemeal procedures a lot in my early years, and I've learned that a lot of times they'll lead to very unsatisfactory outcomes, and not necessarily people who feel like that procedure was totally worth doing, unless it's done for exactly the right indication and right reason.
Right. So you don't do a lot of just eyes.
No, I rarely do just eyes.
Yeah.
And, again, it's because, well, first of all, I pretty much would never do eyes without a fat transfer, because the aging of the eye is combination of laxity and volume loss. And the truly handful of cases in the last 20 years that I've done the lower lid or even an upper lid without a fat transfer, it just left the person feeling dissatisfied. And because they see my results, they see what the results should look like, and then they think that, that's what I want. But if they choose to do part of that and not all of it, then it creates this mismatch between expectations. And then I'm responsible for it, is because I didn't do enough, say, for example, or whatever it was. So now I just pretty much tell people straight, like, this is what we need to do. And if you want to do it, great. If not, we're not going to do the surgery.
I know a lot of people, when they talk about their eyes, they're also talking about dark circles under their eyes too. Yeah. Is that the same?
It's partially the same. And a lot of times that's volume loss, because the eyes get hollow and casts a shadow, and it makes it look dark. So in those cases, that's why, like, the lower lids, volume in the way of fat transfer is a really, really important piece of procedural, sort of necessity to get that eyelid to look youthful again.
I've never had plastic surgery in my life. I've never done anything in plastic surgery, like gone under and whatever. And I'm obsessed with it. And I've talked to Sara about it about 1,000 times in my life. And I want to do it so badly. And now I want to go in, like, once I go in for a facelift, like, I want to do like facelift and a nose job and my eyes. Like, I just want to come out and then just being like, wow, Jen just slept for like 5 years.
Jen, I'm telling you, if you got a nose job, you would not be as beautiful, in my opinion. Like, yes, I think you should get the facelift, like we all should. But I think, but I think that there's so many women walking around town with these little button noses, and they're not as beautiful, I think, as they were before. A lot of the time.
You bring up a really good point, Sara. And this is how I would. I don't do noses anymore, but I used to do a lot of them, and in my mind, the reason to do a nose, a rhinoplasty, is to make the face look prettier or better, And if there's a mismatch, if the nose is the reason why the face doesn't look as good as it could, and that's the thing that they're bothered by. In other words, if they just had that hump taken down or this done or whatever it was, they would look, 10x better, whatever, from a harmony point of view. Then you do it. But if you have somebody who's already pretty and feels really good about their appearance, their balance, objectively speaking, and you tweak it, as Sara said, sometimes you throw off that balance and actually can have a negative effect, And so it's a careful situation that has to be, like, looked at, obviously, very, very carefully. Noses are tricky in that way, because sometimes you'll get this beautiful outcome, but it doesn't complement the face, because, say, the surgeon just has a vision of what every nose should look like, and that nose doesn't work with your face, and then now all of a sudden you have something that took you in the wrong direction.
And Jen, you have what people pay Dr. Karam so much money for, which is a lip lift. Like the space between your nose and your lip is it's beautiful, right? Like, isn't the space there?
Yeah.
Thanks, girl.
It is. It's a youthful. I mean, I want a lip lift and I want to talk to you about lip lifts. But I first want to say to you that I think the thing that I'm so drawn to about your work, I mean, I've seen so many people's work because I have a lot of friends and I know a lot of people and whatever, but the way that you look so meticulous with your fat transfer, and I'm not just saying this to you, but I think it's such a skill. And I think a lot of people don't know how to do it. Therefore, a lot of people don't do it, like doctors.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends get facelifts not combined with the fat transfer because their doctor doesn't really do it or doesn't really whatever. And it looks to me like that is one of the most crucial parts of this entire
Sarah, you're
thing.
right. Yeah, you're honestly, this is such a fun conversation because you're setting all these things up in such an accurate way. That is, so again, we're going back to what I was saying much earlier. And this whole concept of skin and all this kind of stuff. One thing that I noticed right out of the gates, and when I say right out of the gates, I mean, because I decided I wanted to be a facial plastic surgeon literally as a first year medical student. And it takes 11 years to go through that training to get to be a facial plastic surgeon after medical school. So, from that point, from medical school on. So I had a lot of time to consider and think about all this stuff and watch people and look at faces, young and old and all this kind of stuff before I even got to be a facial plastic surgeon. And one of the things that I realized is this concept of volume loss. And surgeons, again, were not thinking in the way of volume. It was just like we had this term in our facial plastic surgery department. It was called the blue plate special. It was a facelift, neck lift, brow lift, quad bleph, upper lid, lower lid. So there's no mention of skin and there was no mention of volume. It was just, lifting all these things. And when I was not undergrad, but when I was in medical school, I started hanging out with dermatologists who were using Sculptra and, fat transfer and things like that to augment the face. So what we had this like split. We had, dermatologists and a couple plastic surgeons out there that thought the face aged because of volume loss. So they were just packing the face with volume. And then you had surgeons, majority of them, who were just wanting to lift the face. But the truth in my mind came that there's a little bit of both going on. There's laxity and volume loss. And so I went out and I started learning the fat transfer and the volume stuff with different doctors who were just focusing on those aspects. And then I brought that to my facelift outcomes. And then as a fellow, and literally no one at my fellowship and at university was doing this at all. I literally went out and bought my own fat transfer kit and all this kind of stuff. And I started doing it from case number one. Case number one. So so 2004, I realized this was a thing and spent like a year or two watching different surgeons do it and then started implementing it. But it right away became the magic dust of my outcomes. This concept of volume in combination with laxity really does make the face look fresh and youthful, more so than what you can get. Now, the thing is, it's been 20 plus years of daily fat transfer. Like every day I've been doing a fat transfer. Back when I was a little bit earlier in my career, I was doing fat transfers alone a lot too. So it was like even more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 a day I was doing fat. So I've got a ton of experience doing it in all these different areas, like the upper lids, lower lids, temples, all these areas where most people, when they get a fat transfer as part of their facelift, they're just putting some in their cheek. They're not treating all these different regions. So, because those are tricky areas, as you said, I mean, to get it to survive, to make it look right, not be overfilled, not be underfilled, it's difficult, but it is a skill that I have to say I've been incredibly lucky, and my patients obviously have been lucky that I've had to be able to offer, because I think it really does set the results apart.
It really does. I mean, I see the results of friends who look great. They have their lines are gone, their eyes are open, but they don't have that plumpness.
Yeah.
But natural plumpness that I see in your patients. I mean, I think honestly that's how I found you. I was like, how do these women also have this skin quality and have all this on top of all of it? So, I mean, I think it's such a testament to you've sort of created your own technique, and other people aren't doing this technique.
No, it's a philosophy. I mean, it's a paradigm. Whenever I go speak at these conferences and stuff, I mean, I always start with the the concepts of paradigms. Like, how do we see the aging process? To me, it's a combination of skin changes, volume loss, and laxity. And so the treatment needs to address skin, volume, and laxity. And so I mean, it's a couple, the naturalness of the whole thing relies on that, and the approach of managing skin either intraoperatively or at home is an important part of that, and then volume and laxity is treated in the OR.
Do you ever do fat transfers and not a vertical restore?
Like I said, I used to do a lot of it. The issue though is there's a window of time when it's the appropriate treatment. There can't be any laxity in the face when you do it. Because if there's laxity and then you go and somebody comes to you for a fat transfer, even if you tell them, hey, the laxity isn't going to get better with a fat transfer, they still, some of their changes are still because of the laxity, the negative changes in their face. And then they'll be upset with you that you didn't put enough fat in them. And so like my wife was an example of somebody who I did do a fat transfer on, but she was 35, 36 when we did it.
Oh, that's right.
And at that time it was totally necessary because after the pregnancies, she literally just her face shrunk, lost so much volume after pregnancy number 1. And the fat transfer basically revived her for, brought her back to her youthful look. And it stayed, that way until the laxity kicked in almost 20 years later.
Yeah.
This show is sponsored by Betterhelp. October 10th is World Mental Health Day. You guys, first of all, I love this day because all of us need to have a day to kind of remember to stop and check in with ourselves. We need to remember that we are all in it together. We are all dealing with our own things. I personally have made such drastic changes in my life, professionally, personally, as a mother, as a businesswoman, as all the things by doing therapy. Okay. It is something that I put off for half of my life, more than half of my life. I don't know what I was afraid of. I was too scared to kind of face it, I guess. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. Here's what I love about it. First of all, I do my therapy all on FaceTime. That's how I do it. The old days of having to wait in a waiting room, maybe seeing someone annoying in that waiting room before you go in, those days are over. That's why I love BetterHelp. Everything is virtual. Also, it is very easy to switch therapists. If you meet with somebody, you don't feel a vibe, it's a very easy switch. So we want to help people realize that the right therapist can change everything. And BetterHelp has 12 years experience in matching people to the right therapist. This World Mental Health Day, we are celebrating the therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can get you started on your journey. Our listeners are going to get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/foster. That is BetterHelp.com/foster.
Oh, I'm so happy that Sara left Foria for me to do alone because Sara can't handle me talking about Foria. Foria is all about giving you better, fuller sexual experiences using their products. Okay, sensuality starts with Foria. Everybody knows it. People might not think that they need extra help in the bedroom, but they are pleasantly surprised at how much better and more pleasurable their relationships and sexual experiences are when they use Foria, okay? Foria is a great gift for the holidays. The holidays are coming up, anniversaries, birthdays for you or your partner. Their Awaken oil uses CBD and warming and sensation-inducing organic botanicals that enhances arousal, sensitivity, access to orgasm, overall pleasure, okay? Everything, it all has these really lovely, beautiful scents. And it's all organic, natural oils. You are not going to be putting crap into your body. You have to be very careful about what you put inside your body. You can't just be putting, this random stuff you get off the shelves. They always use all natural, organic formulas for your most intimate needs, so you can trust what you're putting in there is clean and healthy for you. So, yes, you have our permission to try this. We fully endorse you to go ahead and treat yourself or your partner. Experience your juiciest, deepest, sensual experience with a bottle of Foria. Foria is offering a special deal for our listeners. Get 20% off your first order by visiting foriawellness.com/Foster or use the code Foster at checkout. That's FORIA wellness.com/Foster for 20% off your first order. I recommend trying their Awaken or Pleasure set that has all 3 of their best sellers. You'll thank us later. Purely Elizabeth. I love Purely Elizabeth products. I will be honest, Simon isn't feeling well. He's at home a little bit sick, and I made him the Purely Elizabeth oatmeal this morning so that he could take his antibiotic. The Purely Elizabeth, they make delicious granolas. Their granolas are so good. I personally like to have their original granola in a bowl with Malk almond milk, and I make it into a little cereal. That's what I do. I love it. They also have amazing oatmeals, like I mentioned before, and lots of different cereals. They are intentionally crafted with superfood ingredients like ancient grains, nuts and seeds, and they taste delicious. They are certified gluten-free and non-GMO every time. They also have lots of vegan and keto-friendly options. They are a certified women-owned and B Corp company. Okay, that is very important. Elizabeth's journey started in the kitchen. She wanted to create this obsession-worthy food that's filled with better for you ingredients and tastes delicious, and she really, really pulled it off. I am so into their products. They carry them at Air One. That's where I get it because I am fancy as hell. And they have a ton of granola flavors to choose from. Another personal favorite is the chocolate sea salt, which, if you're listening, Elizabeth, I'd like you to send me more of that because I need some. Also, the original ancient grain granola is just a staple in my household. It's always certified USDA organic, and it tastes delicious. I love all of their products. Love, love, love. Visit purelyelizabeth.com and use the code Foster at checkout for 20% off. Purely Elizabeth, taste the obsession.
What's a mini facelift? Is that real or is that just stupid?
It's not a procedure that I advocate. I think it's not a good one. Yeah.
Okay.
Back with what Sara was saying, it doesn't give you durable results.
Yeah.
And you're going to go through. You're going to get a scar. You're going to go all that, and you're going to look like you did a year or two later. It's just not worth going through it. I think if you're going to go through it, you go through it and get it done and sit solid for a long time.
There's a question here that people have asked that I really want the answer to. I remember being 21 years old and I was with my boyfriend's mom, ex-boyfriend. And she said, listen to me. She said, the one advice I can give you is take care of your neck because you can tell someone's age by looking at their neck. Yeah. And I was like, oh, please, my neck is always going to be fine. And now literally I want to shoot myself every time. I'm like, oh, she was so right. So one question that I think a lot of people ask, obviously a facelift will help your neck in 2 seconds, but what is the best non-surgical procedure for your neck to look a little bit younger?
Yeah, great question. I actually literally just shot a YouTube video on this last week. It's going to come out in a week or two. But basically, it is skincare because the neck is skin. I mean, right? At the end of the day, but it's also thinner skin than you have on your face. So it ages more rapidly in terms of crepiness and thinning. So skincare, all the things that are good for your face should go on your skin. So when I developed the Trifecta, for example, I wanted it to be a face and neck treatment, right? Skincare. So you can treat on both, because a lot of times, as you probably know, putting retinol and things like that on the neck, it's just too much for the neck. So it has to be properly formulated. But anyway, so daily active and then what's another really good treatment is just basic microneedling, standard microneedling. Not with radio frequency, nothing like that. You don't need any of that. You just every 6 to 12 weeks going in and getting microneedling. So my wife,
phase 2.
Well, again, depending on what the nature of the face is. So I would say, generally speaking, anything you do for your face, you should do your neck. So if you're going in to have a laser, face and neck automatically. Like in our practice, there is no face only treatment. Everything is face and neck, and it's been like that forever. But a lot of places have the face, and then the neck is an add-on and all that kind of stuff. Just do the neck part as well, because the face will look very different over the years, and then all of a sudden you have this big gap between your neck and your face, and it looks weird, and you'll be disappointed. So microneedling is fantastic treatment for that, and it's super safe. And sun protection, of course, and then skincare.
Do you do microneedling in your practice?
Yeah, our nurse does it. Yeah, I love microneedling.
Jen, we're going to San Diego. Okay,
today. Let's go
we're
right
going to San Diego.
now.
Okay, so I watched you. I don't know if I watched you do the lip lift. I don't think I watched you do it, but I've followed a lot of your cases, and it's incredible. I mean, the results. It's the weirdest thing. It makes somebody just, I don't know what to say, just look so much better, younger, all of it. What is a lip lift?
So a lip lift again goes to this concept that with time, the top lip gets longer. And if it gets longer and the top lip starts to get thinner as a result, because it's kind of like folding in and starts to cover the teeth, then a lip lift is just the removal of a certain amount of skin that has gotten longer. So you're basically shortening that distance between the nose and the lip. And it's a beautiful, beautiful procedure in the right person. And it looks absolutely terrible if it's not the right person, or if you take too much even in the right person. So there's
We've seen that.
And there's a conservatism and an artistry that needs to be implemented. But truly, we literally turn away, meaning like the ones who are getting a vertical restore, we evaluate for all these things, but like about 50% of the people are candidates for a lip lift, and 50%, if they did it, it would look weird. And we can tell that on an exam. Like we'll pull it up a little bit and see if it's making them look like a rabbit or something, then it's not a good look. So it has to be the right situation. And if it is, it's just beautiful. It's a cherry on top.
I mean, why can't you create something where you don't have that scar? Because that, unfortunately, it is kind of noticeable. I mean, I've never seen any of your patients in real life, but I've seen some people where I'm like, it's very obvious. Like, can't you figure out a way to do it not so obvious?
Well, you have to remove skin. So the scar has to go on the outside part. And honestly, I mean, again, majority of the patients, once they heal, at least in our practice, I mean, I can't even remember the last time somebody mentioned a scar in there. I mean, by no means am I saying that's 100%, because we've had patients who needed some lasers for redness, some microneedling for texture, all this kind of stuff while it's healing. But typically, again, we're taking like the majority, 90-something%. They heal with a very, very thin, imperceptible scar, because it should, again, depending on the anatomy of the nose and the lip, it should hide in that natural crease.
It's an insane result. I mean, your before and afters, I look at them, I'm like, I mean, I'm going to get that one day. Okay. A lot of people, one of the main questions, how can they get an appointment with you? I mean, do people just call your office and there's a wait list? Or
yeah, so we have a kind of an interesting process. Believe it or not, we get a crazy number of inquiries each month that basically just asking all sorts of questions, but want to get started or whatever. So what we've done is last 4 or 5 years, we moved the whole thing over to the website as a starting point. So people go to the website, request a consultation. And then when they do that, it gives them all the information that they need, and then also if they're still interested in scheduling a consult, they upload their photos. And then we would look at their photos before giving them a consultation to determine those things that we talked about, like, are they a candidate? Are they doing it too prematurely? This and that and the other thing. But, the ones who are good candidates, then we offer a consultation. The ones who are not a candidate, then we'll explain, what the circumstances are and why they should not, they shouldn't waste their time on a consult, and then that's it. You just kind of start the process. And then once they are, then we'll schedule a virtual consultation followed by an in-person one after they've, closer to their surgery time.
Yeah. You guys, if you're listening, I really encourage you to try to get in with him. I'm sorry, I can't name names, but there are some plastic surgeons out there who have a lot of followers who I follow, and I'm not even, I feel horrible saying this, but not really. They're terrible plastic surgeons. Like, it breaks my heart. I see these women, I'm like, I feel so bad for them. Like, I actually feel so bad for them. It's the biggest choice you're going to make when it comes to the surgeon you pick. And I'm shocked I'm sorry at how bad some are. I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate that. It is a huge decision to make.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, it's crazy how discerning and highly researched our patients are. I mean, I'm always amazed because, like, when you talk to them, they're like, oh, I've been researching surgeons literally all over the world for the last 3 years. And, in my opinion, you're the one. So, but it's never, oh, I just got this urge and then here I am, the next day. It's insane how much our patients are careful about their decision. But clearly, a lot of the ones who are having secondaries or revisions and things like that, they didn't take that time upfront in some cases,
Yeah.
That's very important. You're right.
Okay, I want to know, and then Jen, you're going to go for the next one. Where do you see, where do you see sort of innovation going in your field? I mean, do you think we're 5 years away from some drastic change in how these procedures are done? Or do you think that where we're at is where we're going to stay for a while, or technology? I don't know. What do you think?
That's such a good question. So here's kind of where I think we are right now. You know how like the iPhone came and it hasn't really changed a whole lot since then, right? It's pretty much been the same, just like little tweaks here and there, but it's pretty much the same technology and concept. I think we are at a place right now. Again, how can you get more natural than completely natural? How can you, get a jawline that's free of jowling and necks that are free of laxity? Like, we're there now, right? I mean, the results, it's hard to imagine results getting possibly any better than they are now in terms of surgical. I think from a technology point of view, we've been messing around with things for 20 years and nothing has really come to fruition on that end, in terms of being able to reverse aging. I think if there is going to be an innovation, probably it's going to have to be at the point of view of preventing facial aging from happening biologically in the first place at the cellular level. This thing that we talk about, this trigger that seems to cause the face to...
The telomeres or something?
I don't know what it is, but something... is going to have to be discovered that is like think about it as like a biological on switch that leads to all these changes, that somehow, if it can be prevented from turning on, then you're going to continue to look like you did pretty much from your 40s and younger, is all the same essentially. It's just only after late 40s and 50s when your face really tries to change. So I don't know where we are in that. I'm not even aware of any progress being made on that, but I don't think surgery is going to get better, and I don't think non-surgical treatments are going to be the answer anytime soon.
I have a silly question.
No silly questions, Jen.
Sleeping.
Yeah.
For your face. Like, there's always buy this pillow, silk pillow, cotton pillow, lay on your back, lay on your side.
Stomach sleeper.
Me too. It's terrible. I wake up like, it's awful. It's awful. I know. What? What's your, I also assume after you get a facelift, like you are on your back for a very long time.
You have to be on your back for a while, but 100%. I mean, it's a mechanical thing. If you're sleeping on your stomach and, like creasing your face, people do after time, get little vertical, crease marks on their brow and temples and things like that.
I'm already seeing it.
You can, that'll happen. Those aren't things that Botox or anything else can soften. That's just physically mechanical creasing forming night after night after night. Now, again, if you can't get a good night's sleep on your back, it's probably worth it. You know what I mean? It's probably worth it, but it is a real thing. There's no doubt. And my wife was the same. She's a face sleeper, and it was her biggest challenge after surgery was getting a good night's sleep, not being able to sleep on her stomach. And the minute we cleared her for that, I don't remember exactly what point it was, but once we cleared her, it was like heaven for her.
Okay, I feel better. I feel better if your wife is doing it.
Yeah. No, there's just there's some things you can do and some things you can't, but it's a good idea if you can avoid it.
I'm going to just keep sleeping on my stomach and then get a facelift with you. So it's like, whatever.
Can we do like a twofer? Do you ever have like best friends? I mean, honestly, have you ever
he's had a mother and daughter.
Yeah, mother and going together and then recover together? Because Sarah and I would have a blast.
Yeah. We definitely have had friends. We've had sisters. We've had husbands and wives. We've had a lot of combinations like that. It's actually, it's great.
Yeah, you pay for mine, Jen. You pay for mine.
What? You pay for mine.
All right. Okay, can you do anything? Should you be putting skincare on your eyelids?
So, such a good question. 100%. The fine lines that form around your eyes, again, keeping that skin thickening over time is definitely a huge thing. So again, back to, because, it's clear I put a lot of thought in this trifecta thing, and it was 4 or 5 years of formulation. And one of the criteria for me was it needs to be safe and usable on the eyelids, the face, and the neck. So you don't end up having to buy like an eye cream and then a neck, because a lot of times eye creams don't even have like retinol and actives and things like that in there, or vitamin C and niacinamide, all the important things. So you want to get those actives on there. And again, I learned that lesson watching my wife. There was a period when her lower lids or whatever were starting to get more crepey. And a colleague was like, yeah, just put Retin-A on there. You put the Retin-A you put on your face, put it on there. For 2-3 weeks, her eyes were just like puffy and messy and whatever it was. And then she got used to it, but she kept that skin in good shape, So
I'm buying your trifecta today.
We hang up, we'll hook it up. We'll hook you up. It's really good.
Or I'm the moment I hang up.
Honestly,
I'm like,
she's rich. She can buy it herself.
Are you okay?
Okay.
Like, what is this? All of a sudden, I'm paying for your facelift.
Yeah.
You know what?
Honey, you have a major business. I mean, come on. Okay.
You have like 10 major businesses.
Okay.
You know what? Sarah's going to buy me the trifecta. Okay. That is what's going to happen.
Wait, by the way, I will. I actually will. Okay. I want to know, what are we doing for, and I know we have you for 2 more minutes. What are we doing for our pigment? Because there's no surgery for that.
No, that's a great
besides,
question.
Of course, good skincare, but like what lasers or not lasers are we doing?
Yeah. So I'm gonna. This is really important because pigments are produced in this skin by the melanocytes, right? And once they're triggered to turn on, they're going to constantly create pigment. So we're going to go in reverse here. If you do a laser, here are the lasers you're going to use. You're going to use an IPL or a BBL. Those are pigment lasers, right? Intense pulse light, broadband light. These are technically. Now, another, you can sweep away the pigments using a resurfacing laser like an erbium YAG or a chemical peel. So you're basically resurfacing the skin and taking the pigment off with it. But both scenarios, that pigment is coming right back. It's not stopping. So the real answer to that is sun protection, which is a huge, then number 2 is skincare. Like you can literally, avoid, because there's botanical lighteners, which again were included in the trifecta, but these are things you can buy separately, like licorice root, daisy flower, all these things, azelaic acid, all this stuff that are non-hydroquinone. Combine that with retinol and vitamin C. Use it daily, and this is a huge reason why the trifecta is like basically a subscription concept. Because if you don't do these things on a daily basis, you're taking a bunch of steps forward and then you fall back again. Because the minute you take away the input on the cells start producing pigment again. So if you inhibit the cells from producing pigment, those pigments will start to fade. Whether you have melasma, whether you have hyperpigmentation from sun.
Yeah.
But if you want to speed up the process, go get some, IPL or BBL, lasers, etc., and then stick with a daily skincare routine. You probably won't need to do the laser ever again.
There's no quick fix, consistency, and then it'll start to reverse.
It's the same thing. It's literally like your health. Imagine your body, all these things. It's like
everything.
Making a good decision that you can control. You don't have the control over laxity, but you have the total control over skin and pigment and all that stuff.
I actually think your vitamin C, I'm not even just saying this, has actually helped with my laxicity.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, there's peptides in these things that are supposed to help with firmness, and I would never make that claim. I feel like
I know.
You know what I mean? It's just scary to say
claim
that.
Claim it.
Yeah, but there are things in there that are designed to like tighten skin and make skin more firm and whatever. So who knows? We'll see if it can. It's just that you have to follow somebody for such a long time, and how do you ever prove that? You know what I mean? So, but I always think of laxity as happening at a much deeper level than just skin.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, they're writing me like it's 4:30. His time's up. So, I mean, not your team, but my producer. So I don't know. The audience actually asked about 10,000 questions, and I got to like 5 of them. So we're going to have you back.
I'd love to. This has been a really fun conversation.
I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate. I know how busy you are, believe me. And the fact that you took time out of your day with patients and your family. And I really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. And honestly, I think you're obviously, you have a very successful and amazing podcast. And I
it's
think,
not that successful, honestly. It's not that successful.
But it's anytime you can reach people and educate them and give them, meaningful guidance. I'm always up for that. I think it's a really, really important part of what I do. So I'm always happy to do that.
Well, I'm flattered because I don't see you on a lot of. I know you're picky with with your time, so I don't take it lightly at all. And this was such a fun conversation. I really am excited to come get my fat transfer. And
I can't wait to do all of it,
everything, and I'll be messaging you. And you're the absolute best.
Yeah, thank you so much.